Hello, friends, and welcome back to Real Life Conversations for Christian Coaches. I'm Teresa McCloy, and I'm really glad you're here. It is so great to be back with you live and in the moment here at the 1st of January. So happy New Year. And as we begin, I want to start by saying that today's episode may feel a little bit different. First of all, Erica's not with me. She will be back next week. But this episode is a little bit slower, a little more reflective, and that's actually intentional here as we go into the new year. Next week, as Erica joins back with me, we have some exciting announcements to share with you about the podcast because we also have a sister podcast called Real Life Practice Podcast. And so we're going to be announcing some exciting things on both podcasts to share with you about the flow and the rhythm and what's coming in 2026. And I'm really looking forward to both of those conversations. If you're not familiar with our sister podcast, Real Life Practice Podcast, I'll just give you a heads up. You want to head over there as well. You want to subscribe to that one, share it out with your friends, because both Real Life Conversations and the Real Life Practice Podcast have announcements that they will be making as to what is coming in 2026. So there's a little bit of a teaser for you. But today, before we talk about what's next, I really want to pause and talk about how we might be entering into the new year, especially as those that help others, as coaches, as therapists, as spiritual directors, that helping professional field. And for most of you listening in, there's some kind of faith connection that comes into how you're doing your work as a helping professional, either because of how you are very faith forward with what you do, or because just as a believer, we all show up shining the light of Jesus in whatever work we do. Get everything right, get a plan together, figure it all out. I know I lived that way for years. And if I'm not careful, I can still get caught in that trap of, oh, it's January. I need to have it all together. And when we help others in the work that we do, January often means that we have to jump right back in to appointments and listening and schedule and back into the space. And there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes we can do it without ever tending to our own inner life. So today, I want to offer something a little bit gentler, something I've really been leaning into as I came into November and December from a very busy year. But what if there was a slower way to begin? An invitation to walk into the new year, not run into it. So I think to do that, we have to honor, first of all, where we've come from. For me personally, I don't know about you as a listener, but for me, 2025 was a little bit more fast paced than I would have liked for it to be. There was a lot of travel for me as I was a part of a training and speaking program that I traveled for on a regular basis. In the first 6 months, there was a lot of travel. There were a lot of shifts that came for me, shift in my business, in some of the work that I'm doing, and a lot of change came with that. There were some family needs that arose for me, not totally unexpected. And I don't mind sharing with you as a listener around my parents and my mother-in-law are both in a season of aging into their late 80s and early 90s. And so that's just requiring a little bit from me. And I'm needing to make room for that and anticipate that. So by the time I entered the holiday season, I wasn't empty and totally depleted. I wasn't at burnout by any means at all. I totally avoid that by having a great rule of life plan and all of those things. But I knew that if I didn't do some intentional slowing, I would carry that depletion straight into the new year. So, if you may have noticed, if you listen to the podcast regularly or consume any of our content, writing on a regular basis, podcasting, trainings, those kinds of things, I have stepped away for about 3 weeks, not to disengage from my work, but to really listen and notice what my body, my heart, my soul were carrying. And I know that if you're anything like me, you may have spent the last year holding a lot of space for other people, emotionally, spiritually, professionally, as you listened, as you guided, as you showed up. And often you did that quietly, faithfully, and maybe without many people acknowledging it. The question sometimes, though, is we don't always stop to ask, what did last year require of me? And what did it give me? I truly don't think we can move wisely into a new year if we don't honor the one that we just lived through, the one that we just experienced, because those experiences shape and form us into how we come into this new year. So, what if we reframed a little bit and said January is an invitation? January is not a deadline. And much of the world out there, much of culture wants to tell us that December is over, the deadline is done, you either hit it or you missed it, and now it's fresh and it's new. They want to say that it's a reset, it's a productivity checkpoint, a message that can say you should be further along than you are. Whether that's true or not, that's what sometimes culture, the world we live in, the people that we listen to, the messages that we have playing in our head want to tell us. But as a believer, as someone that is looking to the way of Jesus as my guiding way, we've just come through Advent. We've just walked through the Christmas season. We're experiencing and have just experienced a lot of relational intensity, whether we looked for deep connection. We've had a lot of people around. We've experienced grief and loss, maybe disappointment as to who wasn't at the table this year for Thanksgiving, and Christmas, and New Year. So it can be a lot of mixture. Yet we often step into January as if none of this matters. All that we've walked through in the holiday season and all that we've walked through in the past year. We set new goals, we make plans, we move forward without integrating anything that we've just experienced. But what if January isn't meant to be a sprint to hit the ground running? What if it's a threshold, a place of reflection right before we enter, like that doorway that we're walking through? A season for listening, a time for contemplation. What if we allowed ourselves to walk into the year instead of running into it? How would that feel different? So, as I thought about these things for my own self, I often pick a word for the year. And I often do it sometime between Thanksgiving and the beginning of the year. It's just part of the contemplative practice that I have as I slow down and listen. And I'll be honest to say, this year it wasn't coming. I just really needed lots of time to slow way down. And it didn't really become clear to me until after the Christmas holiday that I was really leaning into the word quiet. And during December 15th, when I normally take off through this time, so about 3 weeks, I really, really always get quiet. I usually go off of any social platforms and creating any content, writing any emails, sending out anything. There may be some emails that go out from our business, but they're not like my contemplative writing or my content. And so as I slowed down and listened, the word quiet kept coming. Then I was like, there's something more with that. And what actually came, and this was from a deeply internal place, was not only quiet, as in being quiet, but quiet trust. If I'm quiet, can I trust God to guide me in that quietness? And it wasn't a word that I chose quickly. It came out of rest, it came out of stepping back, really releasing control, which is always something for me. And so I don't feel like, for me anyway, the word quiet trust or the phrase quiet trust is passive. It's not a disengaged place. It doesn't mean I'm stopping or caring about the work that I do or stopping working at all to be quiet. Really, quiet trust is a settledness inside of me that's a confidence that God is at work even when I'm not striving. Because as an entrepreneur, as someone who owns my own business, and many of you are doing your own business or leading your own ministries, and it can feel like I'm constantly striving or that we're constantly striving. And I want to live always in the confidence that God is at work and that trust doesn't need to be loud, that I trust that rest even comes while life is still going on and at work, and that I can have a quietness in me, much like rest, I feel like is something internal, not external. We're trained. I've been trained. I've grown up my whole life. Respond quickly, make a decision, be attentive to manage my outcomes. But quiet trust, I'm hoping, as it works on me this year, will invite me to a bit of a different posture. When I choose a word for the year, I kind of never know where it's going to take me. My word last year was available, be available. And it really took me in the year to some of the things I talked about earlier in the episode of being available to my family when things shifted and changed for the care of my dad, especially in the last few months of the year, being available to my daughter and my little grandson and her husband when they needed me through the fall season here on the farm, and just trying to work and really say, I'm open. Where am I needed to be available to my community to respond to things that they were needing? So that was a work that God was doing in me last year. But this quiet trust, I'm not sure exactly what it's inviting me to. I think that's the beautiful thing about a word for the year is reflecting back and then seeing where this new word is building and shaping and forming your formation. But I'm trusting God with it instead of trying to manage it. And how will I hold this with my clients, with the work that I do, with the leadership, with my responsibilities? I'm not exactly sure, but I know that quiet trust and the breath prayer that I've created around that is something that's going to lead and guide me in this new year. And I truly think that's what a word of the year or guiding word is all about, is to take us from the being into the doing. And as I choose a word for the year, it's not like a strategy, it's not a task list. It's more of a posture or a reference place to do that transition from being to doing. In the work that we do here at the REALIFE Process, serving, helping professionals with tools and content, and most of that content and those tools come around the rule of life type work. Like, what is the life plan that God has for me? And that plan is from being to doing. And I think a word can actually be a bridge between those two things to help in a very short way say, this year, what are my areas of focus about? And for me, they're going to be about quiet trust. So all of these areas that I've created in my life will come through the lens of how am I quietly trusting God here? So it's got to shape my being first. It affects then how I listen, how I'm in times of quiet, how I listen to others, and helping me resist the urge to fix or rush in someone else's agenda. Quiet trust reminds me the transformation doesn't happen on my timeline. So as I'm listening to others and sometimes want to go into the consultative side, and sometimes I'm hired to do that. But as I sit with a listening approach, a director approach, a coach approach, it allows me to trust the pace of another person's journey and believe that God's working between sessions, not just in a session. And I hope that my word reminds me who I am before it tells me what I do. And it begins to inform my doing. So that's my prayer this year for my word of quiet, trust, that it'll influence my pace, my calendar, my boundaries, and that doing something from trust for me will look very different than reacting out of fear. So instead of asking, what do I need to build this year? I'm asking, who do I need to become as I serve this year? And so I encourage you as you sit with maybe using this practice of a word or a phrase for the year to really dive in, looking back, looking where you're at, walking before you run. I know for me, it doesn't mean I'm going to disengage, but it is helping me to choose how I engage. And that being said, I want to invite you to sit with that too. How are you engaging and connecting this year? And I'd love to share here as we wrap up this episode just a few ways that if in 2026 you're needing more connection and more support in the work that you're doing, we would be honored if you would check out some of the things that we're doing. And I'll just give you a little bit of taste of that. And if you're not on our email list, I encourage you to get on our list. You can do that in multiple ways by going to our website, thereallifeprocess.com, downloading some of our resources that capture your email, something like that. You can directly send me a message at Teresa at thereallifeprocess.com and say, I want to be on your list, and we'll get you added in. That's the best way to know about our connection and support and what we have coming. But just to give you an idea of how we're showing up this year, and I'm trusting God that these are the spaces that He wants me to lean into and He wants our team to lean into. One way is almost every month, we're going to do what we call a pop up workshop. And it is just something that I will teach about for 30 or 45 minutes online. It is best if you register for those because then you'll get the link with the Zoom, but it'll go through Facebook and YouTube and LinkedIn live, and then you'll be able to be on those calls as well. And I'll just be teaching on different things from our content. Those are absolutely free. And those are just little pop-up workshops that I'm going to be doing. I actually have one coming up here on January the 8th. So this podcast will be coming out on January 7th. So tomorrow you can hop on and be a part of that. You can, if you register, you're going to get the replays, those types of things. So these are just touch points, not heavy commitments. Like I said, 30 to 45 minutes, but it'll place for you to connect with us. Then we also have this podcast. You want to subscribe here. And again, I would check out our sister podcast, Real Life Practice Podcast. We do have a Facebook group that you can be a part of, but what I'd really encourage you to do, it's not really a Facebook group, excuse me, a Facebook page that you can follow. But what I'd really encourage you to do to be a little bit deeper connected is to join our free community. And that is outside of social media. It's on a different platform called Circle. We have 400 or so people there that are in this space of helping professionals in some way, shape, or another. And that is a great place for you to engage, stay aware of what's going on in that free community. And for those of you that might sense a deeper invitation in 2026, we do have monthly certification programs for those of you who are looking to use our content, our real life process content, the 4 components of the process in the work that you're doing with others, whether that is coaching or spiritual direction or therapy work or mentorship or spiritual guides in your church, whatever that would mean, that those 4 components, that rule of life process to take you from the being to the doing, to give you some handles and direction. We certify people to use that content, and we do that every month through something we call an accelerator. It's a 1-day training that you can come to, and we have those dates on our website. You just click on Get Certified, and you'll see the upcoming next 2 months. Right now we have January, February posted, but we will have one in March and in April. If you need those dates as well, let us know. But it's 1 day of training, then some videos to watch, some coaching that you get personally as well. So if you think, hey, this is the kind of work I like doing, coaching, formational work. This is the kind of work I'd like to invite my clients to do, or I want to grow a business or ministry with these kinds of things. You might want to check that out. And none of these things are things that you need to decide today. They're simply pathways for you to be aware of and hold for yourself. This may be work that you want to do for you first, and these are some ways to do it as well. So as we close, I just want to say it is so good to be back. I always know, and I always feel it in my spirit. And I woke up today thinking, I'm ready. I know what we're leaning into. I know what I personally am being invited to in this year, and I'm ready to dive back in. I don't need to have a finished plan, and you don't either. You don't need to have a perfect vision of 2025. I can look out though and see the next 90 days and what God has for us in the next 90 days. And in my business work, it's super exciting. We have some great new tools coming out, some great new ways to help others as they help. The harvest is great out there. And I love that we're able to support people in the work that they do. But you don't have to have it all figured out yet. You're allowed to walk before you run, to carry your whole self with you, to listen before you decide. And as I reference back to my word and phrase for the year, quiet trust is going to invite me to move slowly enough to notice what God is already doing and partner with Him in it. So I hope that you find and discover a word. I'd love to hear what it is. You can either email me, or you can, if you're a part of our free community, you can share it there in a post. You can respond to something on our social platforms. But I would love to hear. It's always interesting to me how people's guiding words develop and where they come from in their story that is forming. So thank you for being here today and sharing this moment with me and engaging in this way of listening. Remember that every ordinary day has an extraordinary moment. You just have to look for them. And I just pray that you'll have so many wonderful moments each and every day in 2026. We'll be back next week, friends. Talk soon.